coming to the stage right now is Joe Irizzary. Born into a blue-collar family and growing up in Park Slope, Brooklyn in the 1980s, he began writing poetry after a moment of reflection during George Floyd's protest. George's death hashed up many of the inequalities that Joe saw growing up in Brooklyn. It opened up the anger and pain that he saw and also felt. Joe felt a sense of responsibility to his people by telling their story and his own. Joe's discovery of poetry in his 50s has been uplifting and has given him a new perspective on life. Everybody give it up for Joe Irizzary.
This poem is called An Observation. The great power of the West sits on the tipping scales of bravado and callousness. The flags of our forefathers, The great power of the West sits on the great power of the West sits on the tipping scales of bravado and callousness. The flags of our forefathers are burning with strife. They have laid the soul of this country on burning crosses of religion and might. They have found a Messiah who fornicates in the mire, his ivory tower facade of petulant power, a million years tale of grabbing and taking, emphasizing he can do what he wants as he stands on a mountain of gold. As crotch grabbing and dancing with misogynistic and animalistic values are plastered on front pages. A fornicating public eat at the door of indecency, as malleable minds have created a demagogue that we love to hate. We now find ourselves looking into the looking glass of burning crosses, that lust for power, self-branding a hero of the people. His disciples eat out of the hand of hatred. His venom burns bridges of compassion. The messianic figure has the unworried watching with jaundiced eyes. In the name of the deity, the lamb is now the lion. He pontificates. He babbles. His spittle leaves his followers spineless and arthritic. His twisted words have kings laying down their swords. His brand is brimstone, white flesh, and talking foul while falling. His blonde mane moves as his flippering tongue swells with the disdain of the other. It's the story of a king who sits on his golden toilet and defecates, the story of his greatness. He walks his minions into the lake of fire, and they follow him with fervor. Believe me, I am king, I am him, I am the hatred that's been sitting in you for generations. I am your retribution, feel me, let me sink into your skin. I am king of all kings, I will take the arrows. Believe me, I am that dogma you must follow. Believe me. It was a perfect call. His ego strums the drums of war, sending brother to fight brother, bending words, fermenting, twisting, inventing, sending, deceiving patriots into the folly of war. Folly fills the great halls and walls of men who cut like barbed wire, leading and bleeding and feeding one man's vitriol. Where human flesh burns as the spark of one man's tongue, like the flame of a new reality, leaving those in their intellect stumbling in thought as their fleeting words fight for the defense of decency. How he has lost his cachet, how the common good has lost its way in the forest of burning crosses. This poem is about mental illness. Uncle is Theo. I saw poverty and depravity and insanity and reflections of mirror souls that fed me and bled me. A place where I saw the demise of my people, a place where I saw the burning of their souls. So I dug through the charred remains to find them. Embers of life was what I found, so I hugged it to show it that I loved it. When I called out to the remains, still, who could not find his words, he was choking on the charred remains of my people. When he spoke, the words danced out of his mouth as if he was talking to the mirrored souls of the island of Puerto Rico. He spoke in Spanglish, he spoke in tongues, he spoke in platitudes, he spoke to none. A man who slept in darkness when there was light. A man who slept in a bed with no resolution, never finding his evolution. He was once a street corner hero. He was once the prince of the streets. They called him John Wayne, but I just called him Theo. I saw a hero of this land turn into a stagnant man, talking to his hand, preaching to the wind, swimming in sand, dreaming of a land that would nurture the spirit of a man, but instead found himself boxed, imprisoned within himself. I guess sometimes you have to find a place to hide, to shut yourself off inside, to preserve life's day-to-day minutia. He came to this world as he left, a man with a smile, but a mind emptied of possibilities. I guess he could not find a star to place his dreams. He could not find a heart big enough to share in the stains of his sorrow. I could still see him etched on a winter's day, as cold as pine cones huddled under a blanket of snow. He came pining for some grief, looking for release. The news spread, it was the day the music died. I saw through the box in technicolor, heads hanging low with emotion, flowers and rows of devotion, John Wayne grieving in a stoic ocean, the tapping of his foot in motion. Its rhythmic cries to the crimson tide is where they found the music had died. I knew that day there was a person inside who was dying to get out. But John Wayne never found his voice. I read the news today, oh boy, and I saw there was a beautiful life. I, a child, I, a blessed child, could play on these ash-covered streets. I could find wonder in the fires that were burning. I could see the morning sun cutting through the smoke. I could see my lineage flickering in the wind, the smells of burning embers lifted like sin. As the winds were carrying this madness into darkened skies, I could not let go. But I, a child, could not find the hourglass of time to change the broken. I saw in the spools of my memories written on books of matches fading as my tears help cleanse this past. I will carry their stories. I will carry their stars. You see, I am a committed Puerto Rican dreamer who sleeps on a hamaca and calls on the sweet smells of a mountain village called Ajuntas. Lead me to the dreams and this place where there once lived innocence. Lead me to the ashes and I will watch the blow in the wind. I will listen as the mountain whistles for them one last time. I will speak of them like a closeted ghost. I will speak of them so I can feel close.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get this one off the top of my dome.
Maybe take your hat off.
I like that. Let's try that. I am the radical whose twisted soul live among the wreckage of twisted steel and graffiti fields, where concrete structures house the flames of Taino hearts and asphalt streets are lined with bloodstained roses, where crying dandelions blow wishes in the wind and graffiti butterflies feed on sin, where bullets of pain bleed graffiti names written by the hand of God as Krylon moves with the majesty and fluidity of the seventh chapel. Rest in peace lives in the stories of yesterday's glory as chains of gold line the walls of hip-hop halls as we pay homage to see hood life on museum walls. No disrespect, but I want my eulogy painted on piss-stained walls where horseflies are dancing to the smells of poverty and the shine of broken glass tell us these streets are not paved in gold. Where Pacheco's dancing salsa just because she's feeling herself, and the smells of arroz con gandul and pernil fill the spirit of my people. Where the corners of the bodega occupied by the hustle, I want to hear the sirens of police cars crying as my face is embalmed between mortar and brick. Where emptied out blunts are left on paved streets of gold teeth, where thug life meat and blood spills across my graffitied mug. That is home. I want an artist like Quiñones to bless me with his artistic hands and spray that Rust-Oleum to create that Boricua flag as it is raised high with clouds of tears as hands of gold hold the cross to my soul. As fat lace Adidas in folded arms flex the body into a jailhouse stance. I want all this taking place on a Brooklyn block with his picks are riding high as the Capicu flies and Latinos with chancletas come alive. That's it.
Gary, everybody. Give it up.